Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we'll be looking over the 10 first-person shooter cliches we're all sick of.
Yikes! I'm going in.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. So, heads up in advance, you're going to be seeing a lot of Call of Duty on this list, since this series pretty much wrote the book on these cliches. The Shellshocked Moment. Stop us if you've heard this one. You're playing a first-person shooter. It's some kind of military shooter, and suddenly you and your unit are attacked by some heavy explosives in a cutscene, which leaves your vision all hazy as you recover from the explosion. There might be some high-pitched ringing involved. This is all too familiar and is usually followed up by your commander yelling at you to walk it off, and urging you to fulfill whatever objective you had at the moment. For as unlikely as this is to happen to most of us in real life, it's an all too frequent scenario in games. Random stealth levels.
You understand? Find out soon.
Despite most first-person shooter games encouraging players to shoot everything that moves to complete your objective, sometimes they call for the player to exercise a little bit of finesse. While there are first-person shooters out there that make stealth a fundamental part of their gameplay, there are many that are not built with stealth in mind. So, stealth missions often feel like eternal whiplash for many, or else slow down the plot of the game to a crawl, particularly if we get caught of having to do them over and over again. Useless, friendly AI. Computer characters are rarely anything more than a nuisance for FPS gamers, as well as video games in general. From running into enemy fire, to neglecting to heal you when you're dying, to driving you off a cliff, you damn allies, where the hell did you learn how to drive? How the hell are you guys trained soldiers, for crying out loud? In some cases, it can feel like they add more to the game's difficulty curve than the actual gameplay objectives. While granted, playing with a friend can often lead to all sorts of shenanigans, at least you can yell at, reason with them. There's no convincing a computer player to do something in the best interests of the group. You'd think the developers would make this more of a priority.
Get up!
The protagonist does everything.
Ramirez, get over and kill it, SOB!
Apologies for all the Ramirez's out there. On a related note, not only are friendly NPCs seemingly devoid of self-preservation, but they're also frequently unable to contribute anything meaningful to your objectives. You, the protagonist, have to perform any and every task you encounter, regardless of whether it's your character's specialty or not. Sure, having the option to do everything is nice, but the key here is that we rarely have a chance to refuse to do something. Of course, with companion AI being as bad as it is, doing as much as possible is basically a requirement if you want to get anything done at all. Voiceless / Faceless protagonist. Silent protagonists have been a staple within video games since their beginnings, but in the early days this was more of a case of hardware limitations. These days, protagonists without a voice, or sometimes a face, usually hidden behind some kind of armor or a mysterious lack of reflective surfaces, are still surprisingly common. Usually this is in order to make it easier for players to relate to the character by projecting their own personality or appearance onto the protagonist. Still, we feel like this is a cliche that can be retired. After all, every other storytelling medium manages to make the characters relatable just fine by giving them a face and a voice. So why not first-person shooters?
Rook, put the cuffs on him.
Shoehorned Plot Twists.
Good. That's one less loose end.
Plot twists are great, when executed well. The problem is that everyone thinks they can pull them off, and not every story needs one. FPS games too often try to work some kind of twist that makes the campaign more memorable. While we'll grant you that there are plenty of good ones, for every one that works, there's another 3 that don't. Oh, that shady government official or general turns out to be a double agent? Never seen that one before. Oh, Katana, your main companion for the last 4 Halo games, is now the villain in the 5th? Huh? What? At this point, a straightforward narrative would actually be a refreshing change of pace.
You'd have been a hell of a ghost. But that's not gonna happen. There ain't gonna be any ghosts.
The main NPC dies.
Go!
NPCs aren't exactly built to last. When they aren't dying during gameplay, they have a cutscene devoted to their very tragic and inevitable death. But if a character gets close to you in an FPS, they're pretty much doomed to die eventually. Whether it's buying you time to get to safety or a sudden death for shock value, your teammates and other allies are alarmingly death prone. Sure, they give their own unique personality quirks or sad backstories, but at this point, teenagers in horror movies have better life expectancies. Is a happy ending too much to ask? Turret sections. Listen, we love mindlessly firing big guns in video games as much as the next folks. There's a limit. Turret sections in first-person shooters usually feature the protagonist grabbing onto a stationary or moving big honking gun and shooting at whatever passes by or approaches you. As novel the first time it's experienced, FPSs have been running this trope into the ground. It's one thing if we can move where we want and still be able to fire the turret, but taking movement away from the player, developers often lessen our enjoyment of something that should be a highlight.
Set up a perimeter by the road.
On-rail vehicle sections.
Bearing 315. I'm being painted. What's those prices?
If you jump into a vehicle and you're not in the turret seat, then you're most likely the one who has to drive. But as soon as you take the wheel, you find yourself merely moving the car between lanes. Often the problem with these sections is that they're really only designed to be for this level alone, so they'd lack the more refined control you'd get from a driving or air combat game. This can be particularly aggravating for PC players, as while many may choose this platform for first-person shooters for the extra precision from a mouse and keyboard, these driving sequences throw that comfort out the window. Have you tried driving with a keyboard?
Commencing drop sequence. Autopilot engaged. On deployment successful.
Drama, 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 drama.
There's nothing saying you couldn't be wearing a mask made to look like William J. Blazkowicz to hide your alien space lizard facial traits. So, I need the password that Grace gave you.
First-person shooters got their start with crazy, over-the-top PC games with absurd weapons and worlds. However, these days, each seems to be trying to up the next on how serious and realistic they can be. With a heaping helping of melodramatic weight to their storylines, even games that don't take themselves entirely seriously will still throw in a bit of drama to stay relevant. We grant that games based around shooting people can be difficult to line up, but come on, John Carmack said it best. Plenty of games have done this before, and we'd like to see a little more levity. Seriously, go look up John Carmack's quote.
Between endless years of hopeless existence and even a single moment of hope, I must choose hope.
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays. And be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos straight away.